Learn how you can bring DevOps to SQL database in Fabric and everything else going on in Fabric. This week on Data Exposed MVP Edition. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed MVP Edition. Today, I'm joined by Hamish Watson, who is no stranger to Data Exposed. Welcome back to Data Exposed, Hamish.
Yeah, g'day, Anna, and thanks for having me back. It's an absolute pleasure to be presenting today.
Awesome. It's great to have you back. And for folks who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. G'day, everyone. I'm Hamish Watson from Christchurch, New Zealand. I'm a data platform MVP. I also run my own consultancy company that handles things like data, cloud, and now AI, as well as some DevOps stuff. And I guess the tagline of both my company and myself is I really like to help people make stuff go.
I love it. And that's exactly what we're going to do today, but in the context of DevOps and SQL database in Fabric. And I think maybe to kick us off, I'd love to understand from your side, what's the most exciting thing about SQL database in Fabric being deployable from source control, just like Azure SQL and SQL Server?
That is a great question. So for me, don't get me wrong, the technology is amazing to have that functionality as part of the Fabric ecosystem. But I guess, if I'm a true DevOpsologist, for me, it's actually around collaboration because for a long while there, I can do stuff in Fabric, but now I can do way more because it's allowing me, as someone that does a whole heap of DevOps stuff, to be able to fold in some of the methodologies, processes that I use all day, every day into Fabric. And what that does is it opens up our cool Fabric ecosystem to a wide range of people. And I can now collaborate with data analysts, data engineers within the same ecosystem. It's pretty awesome, in my opinion.
Awesome. I love to hear that you're excited, and I love to see the worlds coming together. So let's take a look. What do you got?
Okay, cool. Well, if you haven't already, you can go grab a free Fabric trial. And so you get 60 days to try things out. And the cool thing is, it doesn't cost you anything. You don't even have to put in a credit card. You just try it for free. You supply an email address, sign up, and away you go. And so I already have my Fabric tenant set up here. You'll see up the top right-hand corner there, I've got about 44 days left to, try things out. And so what I've done is I have a couple of workspaces already set up. And I've set up a dev workspace here. And you'll notice that I have a database set up, a SQL database, in fact. And so setting this up is really easy. So if I come to my test workspace, I have nothing in here. And one thing we need to do is to enable SQL database in settings. So let's just come here. And basically, we set up our SQL database. We enable it so that we can now do stuff and things with it. And so in my workspace, in the test one, I'm going to create a new item. So search for SQL database, which is in preview. And then all I have to do is give it a name. There we go. And create it. So while that is creating, what I can do is we will grab our dev workspace. And so what we've got here is source control. And so what we can do is sync our database up to source control. And so for that, we come into workspace settings. We have Git integration. And I have connected this up to GitHub. I've told it that we will deploy to this system on our main branch. I could use one of my other branches, if I so desire, if I have a dev branch, then it makes sense that that dev branch will be associated with our dev workspace. And if I go through to source control, initially we had nothing there. So this is in GitHub. And then once we sync it up, we now have a folder with all the definition of our tables and views and what have you that we have within our database. And this is the really cool thing, is this database is you can actually populate it, get data. You can populate it from some of the templates that are in Fabric. So this one is good old AdventureWorks that it's populated. And for me, I mean, it's really cool because all of the things that I need to try literally everything within Fabric is there. So why don't we sync up using deployment pipelines. So we have our database here, which will be empty.
This is the one you just created.
Yes, this is the one I just created. And so if I come into deployment pipelines, and so what we have here is our data exposed database in our works in our deployment pipeline here. And so that's mapped to our workspace. And you'll notice down here that it says our test data exposed database is not in source. That's okay because we have our dev database in source. And so what we're going to do is take the changes from our dev database, which is in source, and deploy it to our test database. And, you know, it's always good to write a meaningful message. So now we're going to deploy. And so what we're doing is we're deploying all of the things in source to our database using deployment pipelines. So that's going to go away and deploy everything. So while it's doing that, let's see that whole collaboration thing I'm talking about. So if I flip over to Visual Studio Code. Now, I could use Azure Data Studio. I'm using VS Code because that's generally what I'm using all day, every day. And the really cool thing is we have our SQL Database Projects extension within VS Code so that I can, again, do stuff and things. And here is our source control. But you'll notice I don't have the changes. So let's bring down the changes.
So this is the same repo that you showed us before that has all the like database represented as code.
It is. And boom, here's our changes that that we synced up to our dev database. And so the really cool thing is we have, again, all of the table definitions and everything. And so what we're going to do is we'll come back here. Okay, that's still going. And just as a refresher, yeah, this is my VS Code has pulled down the latest changes. And you'll see here the changes have come through from Fabric into GitHub here. So what we're going to do while that is deploying to our test environment, or workspace, sorry, we're going to create a table in here. And this table we will push to source control so that, again, other people who are interacting with our repository will be able to pull those changes. And again, the way we create tables is the same as SQL projects that we use for SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, and now SQL and Fabric. So we'll create our table, and we'll do a quick refresh. There it is there. And now, if we come to source control, I'll just come out back in. So we click on source control. And so what this will do is this will pick up that we have a change. And so what it's doing, it's comparing what we have in our database, and it's comparing what we have in source control. And so we'll let that take a wee moment, and we'll just check in on our test deployment. We're doing so much at once. And this is still going. And this has deployed. Now, there's a slight bug and it's my browser, because it had actually finished, but because I didn't have focus. So what has happened in our test workspace, in our test database, let me come through to the workspace. Oh, yes. One thing, the naming of the databases. Yes, sorry. What it does is it keeps the name of the database the same. And so here we have our table, tables, which has been deployed into test data exposed. So that's all good. So if we come back to our dev data exposed, in fact, we'll come here. We have changes, right? Now, those changes are our user table. So let's commit those changes. And so this is now pushing those changes through to our source control or our repository. So we'll let that take its time.
Got it. So while it's deploying, just so I have an understanding, it seems like the key thing to keep in mind is that the names of the databases matter across dev and test. So even though you deployed this test database, when we did source control, it was like, oh no, you can have your test database. We're going to add this. I got it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And apologies, everyone. You've just seen a classic.
We learned together.
Yeah, exactly. When I first created this, I used the same name across. And I got to be honest, today I was like, why don't I try and, label it? Yeah. That's cool. Great thing. You see how quick that went through. Now, you'll notice here, so if we just sync up our local copy, and so again, this is going out to source control, and boom, here is our table. And for me, I think that's amazing that we get a chance to bring a whole heap of changes that would normally be manually deployed. We can now deploy them via source control, and also bring in those changes from Fabric into source control and bring them down locally.
Awesome. Cool. I think I learned a lot personally. I'm sure viewers did as well. I have a couple questions. Sure. One, of course, you've been in this a bunch. I'm sure you have some things you're looking forward to the team working on. Do you have any feedback or enhancements that you want to see in this experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, I've come from, I've been using source control since around sort of 2010, 2011, and I'm used to being able to see a granular view of the changes coming through to source control. You would have noticed in the video, it just said that there was a change to the database. And so I'd actually like to see in the Fabric UI, because there's so much value that has been baked into Fabric in terms of I don't have to leave it. I could actually do all my changes. I could create my table within Fabric. I can push to source control in Fabric and do, wait for it, data analytics in Fabric. And so I would like to see more granular changes that says, hey, the change is we're creating a new table. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I love it. And I know we are working on some version of that. So we're excited to get that out there for you. Now, last question is, you mentioned in the title that you want to create safer and faster releases. Can you tell me, why do you choose those words for this?
I guess for me, it adheres to make stuff go, right? Often I work with clients and community members where they think that, let's build some pipelines and just push changes out there. The problem is that I see a lack of testing. And if anyone is thinking about how they should test and how easy it could be to test, using, I don't know, maybe Copilot, go to Data Exposed and look up the session, which is on testing with Copilot by yours truly. And so if you don't have testing, all you're going to do is push bugs faster than ever to production. And so what I'd like to see, and the really cool thing is that you can do this with both Fabric, Source Control, and Copilot. You can start integrating unit tests into your data analytics pipelines. And if you think it's too hard, it's not. You can use Copilot, point it at the SQL, write the unit test, and that's the safer part. Faster and safer. We've been doing it in the app world since 2012. We did it in the database world in kind of like 2018, 19. Boom, Fabric, we can do it here now.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Hamish, thanks so much. I learned a lot. For our viewers, if you like this episode, go ahead, give it a like, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. We'll put a link to this GitHub repository or some links for you to learn more, as well as the other episode that Hamish was just talking about. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.